Good evening and welcome to the Tricky Triangle Pocono Raceway for round number 8 of the KBRN Truck Series Season number 1 action live on the KBueno Racing Network. And alongside Nate Polite, I am Francisco Bacayao, getting ready to bring you the action on what is surely going to be another one of a fantastic series of races we have seen so far in season number 1. Nate, just action-packed race after action-packed race, and honestly, Pocono may just be another one of these classics.
Yeah, we've talked about it kind of this whole season, the build up to the back end of the regular season. We're in now the third leg of a run of some really odd tracks. We were up in Canada at Montreal for the road course race. Last week we were in Knoxville for the dirt race, and now we go to the Tricky Triangle. And that strange schedule has led to the biggest story of the season: 7 races, 7 winners, Francisco.
Yeah, we've seen 7 different winners in 7 races, and today could be a perfect opportunity to see 8 out of 8 as we'll take a look here at our schedule for season number 1 of these truck series. We're already on that right hand side of the bracket as all 7 from the left side have been completed. We go to Pocono here today before we conclude Darlington and Auto Club before we move on to our playoff round. So it's going to be very important to make sure you capitalize on the opportunity over the next 3 races to ensure that you can qualify into the playoffs. But while we're here at the Pocono Raceway, let's take a quick look around this racetrack here, Nate. Very unique track on its own right in Pennsylvania. So here's our track map that will bring us this information to you, provided by Google Earth. And here's the look of it. In the Pocono Mountains on Long Pond, Pennsylvania, this track opened all the way back in 1971, and it's 2.5 miles in length. And very different racetracks helped profile the shape of this track and the turns. Turn 1 modeled after Trenton in New Jersey, turn 2 modeled after Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the third and final corner modeled after the Milwaukee Mile in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So 3 different approaches to each set of these corners with really long straights to connect them could provide some very fantastic racing, and it'll bring us right into our onboard lap where Nate just kind of walk us through what you see here.
Yeah, so we're going to start by going down the longest straightaway NASCAR has to offer. Uh, going down the country with straightaway where you barrel off into that turn 1 modeled after Trent. Yeah, just as I finished talking, we're finally getting down into the corner. That's got the most banking of any turns of this track. And then you go down Long Pond straightaway, aptly named for Long Pond, Pennsylvania, where this track resides, and it's a beautiful area in the Pocono Mountains, by the way. I got the good fortune to go in there in 2024. Then you get to the end of the Long Pond straightaway, you turn 2, you mentioned it was Monmouth, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but turn 2 goes right over the tunnel where the 18-wheelers bring the cars and trucks into the racetrack. Then you get to that flat, long, sweeping turn 3. You saw just how long it looked on the track map, and it carries forever. You got to be super, super disciplined with the throttle and the brake coming through there. And there's an onboard lap of Pocono Raceway.
An onboard lap of the Tricky Triangle. And let me tell you something, that turn number 2, the tunnel turn as it's known as, very difficult corner on the racetrack. It's very bumpy, and you could definitely feel when you go over that bump on that part of the racetrack because the car wants to jolt, either shoot up the racetrack or nearly go for a spin. And with these trucks, it's going to be no different. Drivers are going to be trying to navigate their way past that tunnel turn, and that's really the corner that makes or breaks your entire lap here. A lot of drivers tend to really make good of turns 1 and 3 with different lines, different approaches, but turn 2, it's really one lane, and making that corner could be the difference between you and running a very complete lap. And whilst we still have an opportunity here in qualifying, Nate, look at these point standings after last week's race from the Knoxville Raceway, and this is where you really start to see the story being told for what is going down over the next couple of weeks. We have Duncan Fall, who resumed the points lead after that win at Knoxville Raceway, but it's a really tight battle for the points lead with himself, Justin Rott, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. Then you have about 5 trucks kind of a little bit further off behind, kind of in their own world, but not too far behind the point lead. And then you have those on the cut line, really from Trevor Haley on downward, where all they need is good runs to either stay above, or if you're looking at those outside the cut line, they need to try and race against those that are just barely hanging on to a spot in order to try and clinch their way in.
and those guys within 20 points, that will run you all the way down to 17th. Craig Lautenslager is just minus 17. There's not that much space inside on the top part of the cut line, though. I mean, really, you got to think from Michael Walls on up, assuming they show face at each of the next couple of races. They'll be in the playoffs, really barring any kind of disaster at the final three races of the regular season. So it's going to be on Trevor Haley, Mikey Neal, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and all those guys below the cut line to really make some changes here.
Anything can happen over the next handful of races, so we'll just have to see how it all shakes up and unfolds here from the tricky triangle. Qualifying is almost about wrapped up here, Nate. We're just under a minute to go. Any kind of predictions you have for tonight's race? Will we see that 8th different winner?
I think it's a pretty good shot that we're going to see an 8th different winner. I like this trend. Another trend I noticed going through the winners, it's been a lot of KBueno Racing versus Goat Inc. this season. It's the battle on the points, the battle for all these race wins. It's going to be fun to see that battle continue on the track this week.
We'll see exactly who gets the last laugh here at the last race in the month of September. As of right now, it is a familiar face that sits on the top of the timesheets by razor-thin margins, that is. So we'll just wait until everybody gets their lap set in the final dying seconds of qualifying, where we get to bring you the starting grid for tonight's action here from the Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And with the clocks hitting 0, that means our grid is official. We can bring to you the starting lineup, brought to you here on the KBueno Racing Network, where on the pole we have the number 077 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He has a 54.563 to set it with the quick time. Alongside him, Rivers Jones with the 54.567, 4 thousandths of a second separate your top two in the grid. Third place goes to Trevor Haley. Daytona winner will be rolling off inside of row number 2, with fourth place going to Justin Rott, winner from Las Vegas, in the 4th slot. Fifth will go to Alexander Schumacher in the number 68, with Brandon Banks alongside him in the 6th spot. Kyle Benson, looking to try and capture his first win of the season, will be starting from 7th, and Travis Van Nusendorp returning to the series, rolling off in the 8th place spot. Nicholas Baum in the number 88 will be rolling off on the 9th spot, with AJ Green rounding out the top 10.
You get onto row 6. Tyler Murray lines up alongside Michael Walls and Connor Zola and Gabe Cazola. That's a little tongue twister on row 7. Last week's winner Duncan Fall alongside Shirley Byer, their producer, in row 8. Then it's Craig Parks and Mikey Neal. Mikey, he's running a little far back in the field trying to defend that playoff spot. Then it's Craig Lautenslager and Christopher Bishop rounding out the top 20.
21st will go to the number 17 of Chris Progar, with the number 49 of Jason Hastings on his outside in the 22nd spot. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer will be starting deep in the field, so that's going to make his bid for trying to go for the regular season championship a little bit more difficult from 23rd. Colin Forster returns for the first time since Charlotte. He'll be rolling off from 24th. Tony Kivet will be in the 25th spot. He's got a lot of work to do on that playoff cut line, with Curtis Kelly in the 26th position. 27th will go to Michael Newbrough in the number 6, with Chris Fowler in the number 2, rolling off in 28th. 29th goes to Lance Hill, who's making his series debut here tonight. We've seen him on the KBueno Racing Network. Obviously, on the 4-Wide Racing Series, he'll be in his number 39 machine for tonight's outing. And JJ Hill will be our final driver in our 30-car field, or a 30-truck field, here from the Pocono Raceway. As there you see the field right there, getting ready to hit the track and start our pace laps here from Pocono Raceway. We might have had an extended green here, as everybody's still kind of sitting out in the lane. But once they do get going, it is going to be full chaos. Pocono Raceway, it might fool you with how wide and fast it is, but man, do you have to drive it a certain way.
You absolutely do. You mentioned how tricky turn number 2 is going up over the tunnel. That's really a one-lane corner, but it's not stopped these drivers from trying to push each other earlier this season. I mean, we just a couple of races ago, we saw Jonathan Jurgensmeyer make what ended up being the pass for the win at Wall of Champions in Montreal. So don't let a thin track fool you. These guys are going to be going for it no matter what.
They're going to absolutely push for it, especially when we consider the fact, Nate, that we're just a handful of races away from being able to be in that playoff run. To talk playoffs, only 2 races remain after today's running, so the fact that there's not many opportunities and that a win doesn't automatically guarantee you a spot, It's all going to be about picking and choosing your battles, when to try and push, when not to push, because it could be the difference between you seeing the checkered flag in a top 5 position to really make good effort on your points day versus perhaps trying to push too hard going for a win, and you might end up losing a couple of spots, maybe finishing outside the top 15. And that's really what is going through the minds of some of these drivers. That's exactly what they're going to have to kind of judge as they're going through the race, because that's exactly the kind of mistakes or lack of decision making that could result in you either missing or making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about these guys on the cut line. Let's look at our pole sitter, Ethan Fonseca Moreno. We know he's got speed. He's got speed in every series he races on iRacing and every type of car he races on iRacing. I'm sure that if tomorrow they added, this random city street VW Beetles to iRacing and put him at Talladega, he'd figure out a way to be faster immediately. But with speed, you can kind of get yourself into problems, which we have seen has been Ethan Fonseca Moreno's biggest issue. Again, let's go back 2 weeks to Montreal. He was the one chasing down Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, had to leave for a moment, got passed back. Then coming to pit road to service his car, put some fuel in as he was 1 lap short. Already, that's not a good spot to be in, but he made it worse. He barreled in there, sped on pit road, got a penalty, turned what would have still been a top 5, top 6 finish into finishing outside the top 10. Huge loss of points that day. Those are the kind of mistakes these drivers have to minimize.
And he's on the cut line. We talked about him being just a handful of points to the good. Only 2 points in for the driver of the 077, but starting on pole tonight could be exactly what the doctor ordered for the driver from San Jose, California, looking to try and make his season turn in the proper direction. And all it could take is a win here at the Pocono Raceway to really fuel that 077, who got the win in the 4-wide racing series over at the Richmond Raceway a couple of weeks ago. And he's kept that momentum up, leading the point standings on that front and really getting some good, consistent results. If he's able to do that here, I'm sure that things will be on the up for Ethan, and several other drivers for that matter, Nate, here are also looking for some good runs. Justin Rott looking to try and take over that points lead. He's starting in the 4th spot. Trevor Haley looking to try and capture some momentum after what's not been the most ideal season since his win at Daytona. Alexander Schumacher was in that points lead battle, drifted away from it a tad, but he's still looking to try and see if he can thrust his name back into competition. Kyle Benson looking to try to go to victory lane after a couple of dominant races over the last couple. AJ Green, Nicholas Bauman, all drivers looking to throw their name into the ring at possible opportunities to go after the race win tonight. We have 60 laps here from tonight's race at the Pocono Raceway to make up the 150 or so miles, and it'll be Ethan Fonseca, Rivers Jones leading us to the green flag here from Pocono. And all night long, Nate, we're going to see exactly this 3 wide, and even later on in the race, possibly some 4. A great start there from Alexander Schumacher. Peaked to the inside of Benson, gained a couple of spots already here in turn 1, and he's not done yet. He might be trying to go up into the top 5 here off of turn 1.
Yeah, imagine how long these straightaways were, but take a look at them. They're also wide. There's Rivers Jones diving all the way to the bottom of Justin Rott. They're already going to try to go too wide through the tunnel turn. We talked about this wasn't going to work. Looks like they'll negotiate it fine. Rivers Jones battling Ethan Fonseca Moreno for the lead.
And Rivers Jones ain't able to hang that bottom work, drives it in a little bit deep, trying to see if he can put some pressure on Ethan to keep that outside lane momentum up. But the 077 keeps the high side rolling. We'll get help from Justin Rott, and just like that, a clean lap number 1 is in the books, and a great start there for Shuey to get up into the top 5. Trevor Haley just behind this group, and Moreno clears into turn 1. You see a little bit of a battle further back. That's the 7 of Michael Walls and Nicholas Bauman going at it into turn number 1.
Yeah, Michael Walls has got a little bit of work to do, qualified outside the top 10. We know the pace he's going to have in that truck. He's there battling Travis Van Oostendorp a little bit. He's side by side now. They're going to keep seeing guys kind of step out, and also down these long straightaways. We don't usually talk about it when we're not at Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta, but you got to use the draft to your advantage here at Pocono as well.
Yeah, there's a big role that draft can play here at the Pocono Raceway, as somebody's been lagging at the front of the field, made it look like there was a complete meltdown, but there is somewhat of a move here going on for third. Trevor Haley to the inside, as Rivers Jones, I think, had some sort of a problem. He is dropped back from what was second. Contact of Van
Oh,
Oostendorp,
and
and Van
contact.
Oostendorp will go around at the front of the field. More trucks possibly going to get a piece of it as he slides down the track.
Oh, huge crash. Mikey Neal.
Mikey Neal gets a piece of it. Duncan Fall, last week's race winner, gets a part of it. And just like that, we saw the trouble for Jones. And this results in a lap 3 incident here off of turn number 3, collecting multiple trucks, Nate.
That's a lot of damage on the 16 of Duncan Fall, your points leader. But coming out of turn number 3, they run out of racetrack. Rivers Jones had some issue happen to him down the backstretch. I believe he was blinking and might have just been trying to get out of the way on the top of turn 3. But as wide as the track is, it gets really, really thin right here. And Van Oostendorp might think he's clear, maybe, maybe not. But just collide into each other. 2 trucks going for one spot, and Van Oostendorp is sliding down the racetrack in front of traffic. It's a miracle more trucks weren't involved in that one. I mean, this is a gaggle of cars that they've got. This is the onboard with Duncan Faw. I mean, first of all, he's got a truck right in front of him. Everything starts to check up. Now he's just got to go down. Runs out of racetrack. There's just not enough space down there as the 42 sliding down the front straightaway. An extremely consequential accident started by 2 guys not really in the playoff picture.
Yeah, a couple of drivers that are just kind of there. Van Oostendorp hasn't made nearly as many starts as I'm sure he would have liked to in this season. He's had some decent runs when he has showed up, looking to try and keep that momentum up, but doesn't look like early on it's going to play in his favor. You see here the 3 wide there in turn 3. Van Oostendorp has a little bit of a moment, drifts up into Rivers Jones. That could have been easily captured the 88, Michael Walls, and numerous other drivers made it through clean. So a really close call for really most of the field there, as most missed the wreck that easily could have captured a lot more race cars.
Yeah, and so many of those guys that were just narrowly avoiding that wreck. I mean, you mentioned it, Bauman, Walls. You know, those are guys that are Bauman's plus 49, Walls is plus 47. I said at the top of the show, those guys are probably fine as long as they show up to every race and they don't have any disasters. I think that wrecking on, the first 5 laps of the race would would result in a disaster. At least that would be what that would result in.
Yeah,
and we see that a little bit with Duncan Fall.
Yeah, I think disaster is definitely a synonym to describe the situation that arose there at the end of lap number 2, and it'll put us under the caution flag for the first time tonight with Ethan Fonseca Moreno in the race lead. And a solid jump there after the challenges for the top spot, but as soon as he got clear, he was able to control the race. Now this time on this restart, he doesn't have to worry about having to wait until the green lights. He can choose when to go. He's got a teammate in each row behind him, no matter which lane he decides to go with, and Trevor Haley and Alexander Schumacher. So I think it's most likely we could see him take the bottom here to try to work with that 12 truck to help him go out in front and try and control this race and possibly get control of the front row.
Additionally, taking the bottom here, this early in the race, most drivers are not going to be worried about fanning out 6, 7 wide going down the front straightaway, which we might see should we get overtime this week like we did last week.
And we very well could get into a situation where we could see the overtime come into play. I know the last race I ran at Indianapolis last week, overtime really played a factor. I was half a lap away from running out of fuel after 2 overtime restarts, having to pit on the front side of my fuel window. It was very stressful, and I don't see a situation where nobody has to deal with that at some point today. Everybody's going to be calculating fuel, when to make pit stops, when to time bringing it down the pit lane, because you don't lose a lap pitting under green here, which is a very important tidbit, is that you can run laps here around the Pocono Raceway. You can be multiple seconds behind the leader, make your 4-tire pit stop if you choose to do so, and still exit on the lead lap. So if a caution comes out as soon as you exit pit road, everybody will most likely pit or something of the sorts, and you can just stay out for the track position. So if it really does come down to that at any point in this race, you don't be surprised if someone tries to pit on the front side of a run if it means that they can stay out and take the track position.
Yeah, and that sort of neutralizes the problem that arose at Nashville. It arose almost at Charlotte as well, and we've seen it in plenty of other leagues where these cautions come out in the middle of pit cycles. Leaders get trapped a lap down because they came to pit road early. It's probably the thing that frustrates these drivers the most is when that happens. You're leading the first 40 laps of a race. Like, all right, I'm going to make my green flag pit stop. And then the moment you hit pit road, there's a caution. Now you're going to be a lap down. whole big issue. That's not going to be a problem here as long as you're cahoots with the leader, right? You got to still be within, a few seconds. There is a delta, but it's certainly much larger than any other track on the schedule. That means if you're in the lead of the race, you are controlling the race, and you can control when people pit. You can be the one to start the window without having to worry about a caution.
An interesting fact here, Moreno would end up choosing the outside lane here, so he'll have the 68 of Alexander Schumacher behind him, putting the 76 of Rott in front of his other teammate in Trevor Haley for this restart. And this will be the first proper attempt at the leader controlling the going back to the green, as we'll see the 077 rather, lead us to the restart zone, the newly made restart zone on the refreshed Pocono Raceway. He'll lead us to the green flag. Gets a great jump there compared to Justin Rott, who's trying his best to time the restart but doesn't quite keep up with the 077. He'll clear for second though, as he'll get him hop up in front of the 68, leaving Trevor Haley with an opportunity to try to mount for second on the inside.
A perfect restart from Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Couldn't have happened any better for him. He's clear, got 2 lanes behind him. Now they can pull his teammates down Long Pond straightaway. Actually, looks like he's pulling the 76 of Rott, not the 12 of Haley. Got those 2 mixed up, but that's the benefit of the draft. You can kind of choose who's going to come along with you if you're out in front. And you're also able to kind of control the pace to everyone else behind you as well.
And very important, the lanes you choose on the restart. There's a couple of teammates battling for the 3rd spot, Schumacher and Haley. Schumacher running that outer lane, trying to see if he can get the momentum for the straightaway. And you see him hang on that quarter panel, tags the outside wall a little bit, but he keeps the momentum up. Looks like numerous other trucks tag the outside wall. And having the outside lane, Nate, is very important because on the straightaway, since everyone leans towards that outside lane towards the wall, that's where the draft is going to be. So if you can stay towards the outside, and as you see some 3 wide further back here, Bauman in the middle of it all trying to hang on for grip. If you can stay on somebody's outside and use that draft, that could really help you gain some spots. That's exactly what Gabe Gazzola's doing there down Long Pond straightaway.
Yeah, perfect example of what you were just talking about. You're always going to be in the draft as the cars gravitate, single lane cars gravitate top on the straightaways. And we're going to see it again here. Cazzola hangs on the quarter panel of the 5, gets back into draft to Michael Walls. He's going to be able to do that once again. And we always talk about you want to have the top side on exit of a corner because you can roll the momentum, extend the straightaway of sorts. But the draft just kind of turns out all the way up to 1,000 here. It looks like Benson got a little loose out of 4, same with AJ Green. AJ Green, by the way, so close to a win last week at Knoxville.
Very close to a win at Knoxville. If that caution did not come out, you could arguably see the 75 truck go into victory lane, but it just was not meant to be last Monday night for the driver of the 75. We'll see if he can find some kind of strategy that'll help him get his truck closer to the front. Right now, Benson doing a great job of working his way through this top 5. He gets himself up into the 4th spot in front of Trevor Haley. Michael Walls in tow, who's was off the back foot of a solid run at Indianapolis and a great comeback effort after being the caution with 2 laps to go in the scheduled distance of the race and dropping in the back. Ended up coming away with a top 10 finish there in his number 60 machine. We'll see if he can do some work here in his 7 truck from the Pocono Raceway. And at the front of the field, Moreno has not really pulled away. He is still here about 2 tenths or so in front of Justin Rott and Alexander Schumacher keeping up tight as well. So we're seeing a lot of the field go single files. It looks like there's 3 wide further back. It was just inside the top 15 or so. That quickly got settled. But this is where the action is. Charlie Beyer has been on the move, started outside the top 20. He runs in 14th.
Yeah, that's another benefit that you have to the draft here, is you can get in line behind someone and you can peek out because you still do want to have the inside lane through the corner. And if you can get someone's draft, time it perfectly so you're sliding out inside the moment you get to the corner, you clear him through that corner, which Charlie Beyer did not do there. You can park speed back past him on the straightaway with the help of the draft. But you can step out, you can pass someone at the center of the corner, you slide up in front of them, there's not a whole lot they can do except maybe try to throw the move back at you next corner. But it doesn't work every single time. We see the 78 now. Then on the inside of the 87, trying to do the same thing, but he's going to have a hard time getting the power down on the bottom.
And you're going to see different lines in turn 3 especially. You might see drivers go as close as they can to the bottom of the racetrack towards those curbing that exists on the latter portion of turn number 3. You might see some drivers run towards that 3rd or even 4th lane up at the Pocono Raceway. When Pocono got repaved, prior to that repave, you saw drivers almost up into the outside wall in turn number 3 from just how wide the racetrack got in its older age. We haven't seen that quite yet with the newer configuration of this racetrack, but it is slowly progressing there, Nate, because this track is already about 13 years old on the surface of the asphalt. So soon enough, you get closer to the 20-year mark, and that's really when it starts to hit its prime.
And time certainly flies, doesn't it? Because I feel that way about every track that I remember seeing when I was a kid. Oh, it just got repaved. It looks, the pavement's nice and pretty, and then now it's old and gray. But these tracks, they're like a fine wine. They get better with age, and they get a lot better with age. And Pocono is certainly one of those tracks. The grip kind of goes down. That means the lesser grip that's on those outside lanes becomes a little more equal to the inside lanes. And it just produces better racing because you can fit more cars side by side on the racetrack. Drivers are going to be a little gutsier.
There's AJ Green, who's in the top 10. Chris Progar in the 11th spot with a solid early going for the number 17, as the entire field has really gone single file for now. Keelan Belshub had some trouble. He's 10 laps down the race as he runs in the 30th spot. Drivers out of this race are Rivers Jones and Mikey Neal after being involved in that lap number 2 incident. Duncan Fall got some damage. He's on the lead lap, but he is close to being 1 lap down. He is running 27th, about 36 seconds off the race leader. And that is all the cars on the lead lap, 27 as it stands right now. And if you're in this draft, it might be a good idea to save some fuel. It's like I talked about, the window of when you pit could be so important. So with Ethan Fonseca Moreno running out front with the clean air, yes, it's helping his truck and how it's going to run, but fuel-wise, he is running the most throttle per lap out of anybody in this field. Everybody else behind him could just maybe lift off about a quarter of a throttle quadrant on the latter half of these straightaways and keep up just fine.
Yeah, that's always the strategy on any track where there's draft. It's the talk of the town at Talladega, Daytona, Atlanta, etc. But Pocono, these straightaways are so long, it's difficult to underscore just how much gas is being used keeping your foot to the floor on these straightaways. So if you have the opportunity to sit in the draft, be it a little bit off the throttle, maybe a quarter way, maybe even a halfway if you're further back, if you just run past the whole number 3, you're going to be saving just that much more fuel by not being in the throttle, and it may not save you, a number of laps, but it could save you tenths of a second on pit road as far as less fuel you have to put in the car next time you pit, and that can make all the difference, because then once you're not saving fuel anymore, yeah, you're out front with the clean air, and it is tough to pass.
Very tough to pass when you're not able to have any kind of drafting help when it's one-on-one. Here's the onboard look from Justin Raw as he runs in second right now, about half a second behind Ethan Fonseca Moreno now. So he's still getting some draft, but it's probably not nearly as strong as he was right tucked up behind the 077 like it was a couple laps ago. Look at the line Ethan's running, getting all the way down to that rumble strip as he gets sideways off of turn number 3. And this is where we're really going to see the draft play the biggest advantage for Justin Raw down this long front straightaway, and you'll see him get upwards of 180 miles per hour with this draft. That's the amount of pull that he's able to have relative to your race leader. Was nearly 3 or so miles an hour quicker than Moreno at the end of the straightaway, and gained back almost a tenth of whatever he had lost in the previous corner. So if he keeps that kind of momentum and runs up, that's the kind of advantage he can build himself up to try and keep up with Moreno in the long run.
And it's all about keeping in touch with the leader, especially early in the race, not even a quarter of the way through. Yet we'll be a quarter of the way through once they come back to the line. But here it is, Michael Wall's making a move on Kyle Benson. He's thinking, hey, it's go time. I've sat pretty for long enough. I'll try to make a move. Steps back in the line. He might dive into turn 3, and he will dive into turn 3. We'll see how he gets that bottom to stick. And you see Kyle Benson giving a little squeeze on the exit of a corner. This could open things up for Trevor Haley.
And looks like Raw had a bad exit off of turn number 2 as well, because Alexander Schumacher was looking around trying to find the move as they lap around Duncan Fall with his stricken Toyota Tundra number 16. And Shuey, after a great run off of turn 3 to take advantage of the mistake from Justin Rott, moves up into P2 here on lap number 15, as there's Walls peeking back to the bottom of Benson, trying to force a mistake out of the 38. And you see this group of 6 or so trucks have put a gap on now Gabe Cazzola, who runs in 7th, as Michael Walls will try to see if he can have Trevor Haley get him back up to the 38. And how about Chewy? Had a great start to work his way from 7th up into the top 5, and slowly but surely in these long run has worked his way up into 2nd. Long runs have not exactly been Chewy's strong suit, as the 76 peaks back to the bottom with a great run off the tunnel turn. But Chewy in this long run through these 15 laps has really done a good job of keeping the tires under him, as there's almost contact between your top 3 right there.
Yeah, talk about keeping the tires under you. Justin Rott had a hard time on the inside of turn 3. And as these tires wear, that's going to continue to be a factor. You see someone slam the wall way back in the field. I think that was the 47 truck, I believe, or perhaps the 49 of Jason Hastings. That's something that you got to worry about when you're running the inside. And Justin Rott gets a really good run coming out of turn number 1 right there. He's all over the back of Alexander Schumacher. He might be setting him up in the tunnel, or he might try to wait till turn 3 to make the move. Peaks a couple of times. He's going to decide better of it going across the tunnel here. But Alexander Schumacher, what a season he's had so far.
He's had a great season. And to tell you something, Nate, here, when drivers peak out like that, it's never really to make a move. At least the way Rott was doing there off of turn 1, it's never about making the move. He didn't really have the forward momentum necessary to properly make a dive. It would be a little bit bonsai as he has to lift there in turn 3. That's going to cost him down this whole straightaway. We might see Benson end up making a run at the 76, but when you peak out like that, it's to kind of get in the head of the driver in front, make him have to think before the next corner. Chewy did not flinch. He hangs on to 2nd as he starts slowly chipping away at the advantage of your race leader, as the top 5 or so start to get a lot closer together, with a great shot here from the blimp at the Pocono Raceway, with Moreno's lead slowly but surely evaporating away. Battle inside the top 10 now. Brandon Banks, Nicholas Bauman, they've been trying to work at Gabe Cazzola for a while now. You see a little bit further back, a little bit more moves possibly being made. That's Craig Lautenslager and the 17 of Chris Progar going at it in this little group right here.
Yeah, lots of trucks under a blanket here. Exit of the tunnel, 6 right in the frame. Chris Progar trying to make some moves. And a lot of these guys right there, you see that red 55, Tony Kivett, -2 on the cut line. And important to note, you said a few laps ago, Mikey Neal retired from the race. That is a huge window open for all of these drivers beneath the cut line. That's a guy that's only +8 coming into this one. That's the green light. That means
and
go,
around
go,
goes
go.
the 2 of Chris Fowler, went spinning off of turn number 3, and now the caution flag waves. I had seen it in the back of the shot as the back bumpers off of the 2 truck. He was sitting sideways up against the wall, and the yellow flag will wave for the 2nd time in tonight's race, as just here on lap number 18. We'll try and get the replay view of what happened to the 2 truck here that would bring out our 2nd yellow flag of the evening. He was up there in that pack, Nate, of somewhere inside the top 20 or so. And there's Keelan Belsha, who sits 10 laps down in this race. And, oh man, I think there's a possibility that there was registered contact there between those 2 with the lag from that 18 truck. We'll get a second look at it. But I think that is what we consider a really awful case of iRacing contact right there.
It's certainly not really the fault of anyone right there. More so just not the best internet connection, I suppose. But that's a tough break for the 2 car. If the 2 truck of Chris Fowler, there's really no way to slice it. That is rotten luck.
Yeah, that is terrible. It's unfortunate that those kind of things happen. It's honestly probably the best alternative we have towards, let's say, random engine failures, random transmission failures, if you will. Because on the sim, those really can't happen if you have a clean race truck. They're just not programmed that way. It also probably wouldn't make a lot of sense to have it done that way. But nonetheless, these are just kind of the things we do have to deal with that are real factors in racing in online events, is connection issues, IP issues, internet problems that affect the connection and affect the raceability of drivers. I know I've dealt with it. Moreno for sure is one of those who's had to deal with it in the past, but it's just one of those factors that you have to deal with in the world of sim racing. And unfortunately what it'll do is bring us under the caution flag for the 2nd time tonight.
Yeah, The analogy there to engine failures, that's probably about as close as it gets, and it's really no one's fault unless you forget to pay your electric bill, I guess. But I think other than that, it's rotten luck, and even for the 18 of Belcher, he was already a number of laps down as all the leaders hit pit road. So bad to worse for the 18 truck. But let's see what happens with everyone here. I think anyone might gamble for 2.
It is feeding time in the pit lane, and we'll see if anybody tries to go for some kind of track position here. Here, 18 laps in, and I believe the fuel window for tonight, Nate, was somewhere around the 24 to 27 lap range, I believe. So that's the kind of lap count we're looking at. Doesn't look like anybody made any significant mistakes in the lane while they're stopped in their stalls. Tires going up. It looks like 4 tires all around for almost everybody in the field. You would have to expect so with nearly 2 seconds of fall off. Barreto keeps the lead off of pit road. Schumacher keeps second. Benson tried to battle his way up into third. Actually, and there goes, you see most of the field able to hold station. Nothing too big, nothing too drastic here on the race off of pit road. So relatively tame.
Outside of the 76 of Justin Rott, he was fighting up in the top 3. He had fallen here on pit road. Not the best of stuff here, but he came out in 6th position.
There's the driver, the 76, who was struggling on the tail end of that longer run just before the caution flag came out there, Nate, and might have been a lucky break for him to try and get on some new tires, but now he's going to be a little bit further back than he'd ideally prefer. Not too far back, he'll be in that 3rd row, but I'm sure he would have liked to have been in that 2nd row where he most likely would have been if that was the spot he entered in. While we're under caution here from the Pocono Raceway, we'll take an opportunity to go side by side. You won't miss a thing here. You're watching Pocono Raceway action live on the KBueno Racing Network.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Let's go. What's up? Yo, what's up, Kenneth? How's it going, man? How are you? Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini. I have a hoagie. I got it all through the Wall Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app?
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa.
Welcome back to the Pocono Raceway here live on the KBueno Racing Network. We're wrapping up our second caution of the evening. Francisco Bacalhau here with Nate Polite, getting ready to bring you the restart here, entering lap number 22. And it is going to be a fun one. Ethan Fonseca Moreno will lead us to the green flag with Alexander Schumacher alongside him. And just like that, the green is out and we're back underway here from Pocono. A great restart from Schumacher to keep up with the race leader. He's on the outside, challenging for the top spot as they barrel towards turn 1.
Yeah, and Ethan Fonseca Moreno trying to move him up the racetrack as they head to turn 1. He's going to get clear at the center, but will he be clear on exit? Shuey's going to get the bite out the exit of the corner, and the door is slammed by Ethan Fonseca Moreno.
And Shuey has to think, does he block from Micah? Does he try to use the advantage? You see him have to think about that 7 truck. There goes Wolves, peeking to the inside of the 68 now into the tunnel turn.
Michael Wall's being aggressive on these restarts. You have to be. The cars, the trucks bunched. We saw how quickly they got strung out on the early run. You got maybe 5 laps here early. Need to get up to the front. Now here's Justin Rott making a move on Alexander Schumacher through turn number 3 while he still got the grip in his tires that went away over the course of the long run. Oh, contact there. Trevor Haley, Gabe Cazzola.
3 wide there they were off of turn number 4, and it's JJ Green trying to move his way up into 7th. And you see the racing on these restarts. I'll say they certainly are not going to be nearly as intense as we have yet to see so far. As there goes Gabe Cazzola peaking 3 wide middle for now. But these restarts, if they get more frequent towards the latter portion of these races, you'll see the full width of the front straightaway used, as Cazzola peaked for a second to the inside of Haley, but decides to push the 12th truck instead down this long pond straightaway. And we'll see here what happens. Michael Walls, though, great restart to get up into the 2nd place spot. We'll see what he's able to do with Ethan Fonseca Moreno up front.
He's sitting in the draft a little bit, goes a lane lower on entry, just trying to see what gives him a little more pace. It really was a half a lane lower throughout much of the corner there. Doesn't lose a whole lot of time on exit, so he gets to sit in the draft. But it's not all that strong here at the front of the field. We've compared it to Daytona and Talladega. But as far as catching up to just one car, it's not that strong because these trucks are still at full horsepower. No restrictor plates. It's once you get a little further back in line, it's going to be a lot stronger. But just one-on-one, it's not that big of an advantage.
But you also can't afford to make mistakes, and Moreno tagged the outside wall off of turn number 1. That's not the kind of mistakes you want to make. It'll keep the 7 around closer than you maybe like, but fortunately for Ethan, Michael Walls wasn't really able to capitalize on too much, but he also has to think about this 68 behind him. It's a KBueno Racing sandwich here for Michael Walls he has to think about before attacking on your race leader. The good thing he has going for him is that's Justin Rott, teammate. He'll get into Alexander Schumacher. His rear bumper will fly off. I think Benson is the one slamming down to the inside of the track. Huge hit for Nicholas Baumann as his hood goes flying off. Race-ending damage for the number 88, and that'll put us under the 3rd caution flag of the night. Huge damage to Nicholas Baumann.
Yeah, we'll see what happened to him. He was kind of behind the wreck, but speaking of disasters, I mentioned it on that lap 2 crash. It happens here to Nicholas Baumann. He came in plus 49, so this is not going to drop him beneath the playoff cut line by itself, but it certainly puts him a lot closer to it than he would have liked.
And let's go back to when the initial incident started, which we saw was a battle between these two right here, Alexander Schumacher and Justin Rott. Justin was on the inside, was drifting up, barely gets into the 68 of Shuey, who hits the wall, saves it, but the bumper flies off, and you see just off that screen, that is the 88 of Baumann going head on into the pit wall. Oh my. We'll have to get another look at it because that was nasty.
That is a heinous crash. I mean, you see Nicholas Baumann, he's in preservation mode. He knows about the playoff situation, so we're right on board with him. Let's play a little bit of what would you do. You see this happen up on the corner. This develop. You see right there, there's contact. Now you got to take the escape hatch. If you're Nicholas Baumann, you're not going to run right into the back of the 68, so you're going to dive down the racetrack. Only problem, the 38's thinking the same thing, and he's right in front of you. Now here you go. Oh, there's pit barrels right there, and those are not going to get out of your way. And really awful luck as Baumann runs out of room.
And you heard the throttle stuck there for the 88. It was just not. We'll take a second off-board look at it for the 88. You see, he himself hits the outside wall and slides down the track. But problem for him, the truck slid a little bit too much down the track before it finally started turning right. And look at the rear tires stay spinning up on that 88 truck. The throttle hung from just how hard it hit those pit barrels. We may have to get an update on Nicholas Baumann. I saw him sending a picture earlier in the practice session of him upside down at that same part of the racetrack, and I don't think that was him predicting his outcome for the night as he sits on pit lane repairing damage to his racetrack. So does the 68 of Alexander Schumacher, who you see have that bumper back attached to his racetrack, and Kyle Benson also in the lane after a little bit of damage avoiding that incident.
Yeah, and Alexander Schumacher, we had sung his praises all race, and just Justin Rott's trying to get past him on the inside of turn 3, runs out of grip and runs out of racetrack. I feel like that's probably not the last time we're going to see something like that happen in this race.
Probably not. We're only approaching the halfway point here in a handful of laps, and we're working our third yellow of the evening. So there's still plenty of things that can happen in tonight's race. And fuel-wise, there's still a lot that is yet to happen. We had a lot of that field pit on lap number 20-ish, around there. Just over 40 laps to go. That's not enough for one full tank. As we mentioned, the fuel window somewhere around the 25 to 28 or so lap range, especially these caution laps, should help extend that number a little bit further. They're not quite in the window. If we go caution fest full here to the end of the race, maybe overtimes would definitely be a maybe, but wouldn't surprise me to see if a lot of the field here after lap 30 decides to bring it down the pit lane. So as a way of guaranteeing themselves to the checkered flag and possibly some overtime. So that's just something to keep in mind on, Nate, here as we approach the halfway point in this race.
Yeah, I feel like fuel strategy's been the buzzword, and I, for one, kind of hope that we don't get a caution that puts these trucks on pit road with 28 laps to go, and we're stuck in the same situation of fuel save, because we've seen a lot of that this season. I want to see something a little different. I would love to see these guys get to go full bore to the finish and have to absolutely, 100% full throttle all the way through this race, not trying to save fuel, play with the throttle, play in the draft. I'll just love it when these drivers can give it everything that they've got and they're not trying to save anything.
And that's something we're going to see a lot of in the next two races, given the tracks that we're heading to, Nate. Darlington and Auto Club, tracks that are known for absolutely tearing apart those tires, and you have to take care of your race car and race the racetrack and provide some of the best racing on the entirety of the schedule, the Lady in Black and the trip out west towards the Auto Club Speedway. So I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun when we get there, but we first have to navigate the final 33 laps here from the Pocono Raceway. Ethan Fonseca Moreno looking to really stamp himself an opportunity of making the chase by either winning this race here tonight or having a great top 5 effort like he did at Knoxville last time out. That will give him what would likely be around a 20-point gap with 2 races remaining, which by no means is safe, but it's surely going to put him in a decent spot going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, you get these wins. If you're already plus on points here and you get a win, it might as well lock you in at this point because of just the absolute math. You have to show up to the races, not have anything really too awful happen to you, but you really just got to go through the motions to fight for a championship.
Gotta go through the motions is what everyone's going to be dealing with here in these remaining 33, as the field will be in the hands of Ethan Fonseca Moreno into the restart zone. Green flag, great launch from the 077. Justin Rott trying to keep to the inside of his teammate Michael Walls as they barrel down towards turn 1. One of the cleaner restarts as now they're starting to fan out a little bit more entering turn 1. Walls to the outside now for Moreno.
Yeah, I think he's further up the outside than Alexander Schumacher was on the last restart. No door slam this time. It's the 077 and the 7. They give each other a little bit of room on the exit of turn 1, but Michael Walls is pushing forward. Not quite clear if Ethan Fonseca Moreno is Justin Rott push the 077. He will clear him. Moreno gives him the spot going through the tunnel turn. Side by side for 4th, that's Gabe Cazzola and AJ Green. Trevor Haley peeks a little to the inside.
Yeah, Justin Rott momentarily pushed Moreno, but at the same time then went to the outside, so it was a little bit of an awkward situation there for Moreno, who loses the lead for the first time tonight, and Gabe Cazzola for the first time this evening finds himself up into the top 5. He's going to lose out on this freight train that we have talked about. If he can't slide in there, which he won't, he's going to lose maybe another spot or 2 here to Trevor Haley and Travis Van Oostendorp, but nonetheless, it's been a clean race for this 95 so far in it, as he dives it down to the inside, nearly making contact with that 5 truck. As soon as I mention having a clean race, it'll stack up the trucks behind him as Trevor Haley will now look at what to do. There goes the 19 of Lance Hill in his series debut, trying to see if he can do something from this spot. And this is some of the best racing we have in the field on right now.
Yeah, Gabe Cazzola, he's sending it on the inside of these corners. He's trying to keep that spot. He just barely cracked into the top 5 as he makes contact there with Trevor Haley. But he is certainly a firecracker of the field. He came to life a couple of weeks ago in Montreal, and at another track where it's heavy braking is a big part of it. Back toward the front again, and take a look at part of that group he's battling. Travis Van Oostendorp. It was about 30 laps ago that he was, nose into the outside wall, in that stack up on lap 2.
And there's Moreno, who's back to the back bumper of Michael Walls, trying to see if he can do something differently to take the lead back to his rightful self. And this is the first time Moreno's been in traffic all race long, and you see Walls trying to break that draft, which is something we could see in the second half of tonight's race, Nate. But Moreno is now in a critical spot because now he's learning what to do when not in the race lead, which if he finds himself late in this race, he can use whatever he learns here as a way of what to do when playing defense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, iron sharpens iron, and you see him going way high to the top of turn 3. I think it's the first time we've seen anyone really go up the... And we'll see the run that he gets off of this corner. He's getting pretty big from that bumper cam of Michael Walls, because iron sharpens iron, and if you're in second place and you're seeing what the other top drivers in this series do to defend, you can kind of download that, if you will, and you can use it to your advantage later in the race.
And Moreno went up into that fourth lane, which we had talked about earlier in the show that we could potentially see, and that's really one of the first few times we've seen anybody experiment that high and make it work, as Moreno now clearly gets up to the back bumper of that 7 truck going into tunnel turn, and he's trying his best to hang through that dirty air, and he does a great job with forward momentum here. We'll see if that's the same line he runs here down into turn number 3. He backs up early, runs a little bit higher, nearly as high as he did the last time, but he might try to diamond it out, and Moreno could get a good run down this front straight. He's got Justin Rott in tow.
We'll go on board with the 077 here. Michael Walls trying to break the draft. This is a humongous run for Ethan Fonseca Moreno, right to the bumper of the 7. There's the block into turn 1. Now the late move down the inside. Ethan Fonseca Moreno for the lead.
He had the 7 guessing where to go, forces him up the racetrack slightly, but that's the first jab of what could be a battle for the top spot that could last a couple of laps, as now Rott will push Moreno, and this is all part to help himself really for the 76 truck. He wants to see the top 2 battle. That's really his best way of getting by both of them, is if they both battle and slow each other up, he can take them 3 wide and try to go for the fell swoop. I've been on both sides of that, and let me tell you, it's fun when you're the one doing the passing, not so fun if you're the one getting passed, but that's really his only play here, is to try and force them into a battle and try to see if he can be the one to come out on top. But right now at the completion of lap 32, Michael Walls with some great defense keeps the top spot.
Yeah, with the defense that Michael Walls has shown, he has proven to be aggressive. I mean, he's all the way down there at the checkers on the inside of the front straightaway, and you saw his aggressive blocks last lap. That's certainly sitting in the mind of Justin Rott as well. Like, hey, these guys get up there, there's a better than good chance that they make contact and slow up a whole lot. And I can not only get the lead, but maybe build up an even bigger lead than just getting by the 2 of them.
And there you see on board with Rott, you're seeing what the battle in the front looks like from the 3rd place perspective, as Moreno once again closes up to the back, flips the apron, but that really helps that 077 turn, and he is right up within 2/10 of your race leader going into turn number 3 this time. But Michael Walls is able to hang on for now, just has done a great job of defending at this point in the run, and you see him actually gain throughout turn number 3 and all along the rest of the field, single files. One of those cars struck the outside wall. I believe it was Michael Newbrough or somebody further back in the pack, but it slowed up everybody. And a progress report update here on the drivers involved on that last incident. Kyle Benson has driven his way up towards the 26th spot. He actually sits 4 laps down in this race, so he's not really been able to recover from that. Alexander Schumacher, on the other hand, though, has driven his way up into the top 20. He finds himself in the 18th spot. There's Shuey right now, just behind a battle of Tyler Murray and Chris Progar. And in the top 10 for the first time tonight is the 19 of Lance Hill, making his series debut just behind Travis Van Oostendorp. He'll take it 3 wide to the inside for 8th.
And Lance Hill, really what a job from him. And you'll notice that this field is kind of started to split. Is at the front they're battling 2 wide. Justin Rott's going to go all the way down, trying to make it 3 wide as they head towards turn number 1. Justin Rott with a huge run.
And there's Rott on the inside. He carried the momentum off of turn 3, forced them into the battle. Walls trying to hang it around the outside, will lose both of those spots. He'll try to get the run now, follows Moreno instead of his teammate, and what a move. Justin Rott's 3 wide, works out for Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Michael Walls will not be able to clear down low. He does so late, but can't make the move in time. So Ethan Fonseca Moreno back to the front. We got to get a second look at how that came about, because we were so entertained by the battles going on behind the pack that we missed out on how this battle for the top spot unfolded. We'll go back here to about a lap ago. These two were battling for position. Moreno had one of his runs and Michael Walls was defending. And look at this better arc. Moreno's able to get into the tunnel turn. Just backs it up so nicely, gets almost into the back of Michael Walls, gets him loose. They go side by side down the short chute. Now Michael Walls has to respect that and give him the inside lane here. Moreno tries to do whatever he can to charge up the lane, gets tight, nearly gets into Walls there. Actually, he did. That slows both of them down, and that's exactly what Rott was hoping for, and that's how we ended up 3 wide for the top spot.
Yeah, and then we saw a lot of the finish here, but that blocking by Ethan Fonseca Moreno can't quite get it done on Justin Rott, and so now it's all about making as much pace as he can. And he did exactly that, and he's got to stretch his legs here just a little bit. Well, meanwhile, Justin Rott has fallen to the back of this lead group.
And Michael Walls probably did whatever he could to keep the top spot, but as soon as he lost the lead, that was showing what the tires really looked like on that 7 truck. Probably used whatever he had to take it and keep it, but as soon as he lost it, now it's struggling for grip. As you see a lot of the drivers maybe tagging the outside wall for turn 3. AJ Green, though, for the 2nd week in a row, is really showing up on this long run. He's got help from Brandon Banks. Now peeking to the outside of Walls. Will he try to bump that 7 truck into turn number 1? And there he goes deep into one himself, going up to that 3rd lane. AJ Green is really mounting a charge here late, trying to make up for that last week upset from Duncan Fall that took the win away from him.
And he's making a charge late in the season as well. He's one of those guys that's smelling blood in the water with Mikey Neal retiring from the race early. Green just -9, and that SpongeBob 75 has really showed up these last couple of weeks.
It has been a clutch performance of trying to get himself up into the playoff battle. And for AJ Green, another solid run here could definitely put him in that conversation. Moreno leading this race is definitely going to put himself in the conversation, as he was +2 entering tonight's race relative to the 55 of Tony Kive. It was one of those first couple of trucks out of the playoff conversation, as there's now Brandon Banks for the moment, peeking to the inside of AJ Green going into turn number 1. He's going to have to navigate around Duncan Fall. The slow truck drifts up a little bit, nearly gets into the 75, and in the process, there goes Rott now to the outside with momentum, and that's exactly how you lose a spot here, just catching lap traffic at a bad time.
Yeah, probably the worst spot you could possibly catch lap traffic, and Duncan Fall, he had to keep up below the apron, but that wounded number 16. It's just so difficult to keep that thing under control, especially when the pack's going by, and you don't exactly just want to park it in the middle of the straightaway to let everyone go by you before you get to the corner. So really just a rough situation all the way around.
And out front, Ethan Fonseca Moreno has now opened up a 1-second lead on Michael Walls. And now with 22 laps to go, Nate, I have to ask you, does anybody consider bringing it down the pit lane and making their final pit stop of the race early? We're seeing tires wear, so maybe that's a fear of certain drivers, that if the caution comes out, maybe enough drivers pit to where the tires could make a difference in actually making passes on the track. But at some point you have to run your strategy. See some 3 wide there off of turn 1 further back in the field. That's Craig Lautenslugger, Curtis Kelly, and I believe the 55 of Tony Kivet. That's going to be a tough one to make work here into the tunnel turn. Someone's going to have to back out of this one. None of them do, and they make it work.
Wow, really phenomenal racing there in the middle part of this pack. And back to your point about pit stops, you said earlier 2 seconds of tire fall off, right, between new tires and old tires. So you are one of these drivers in the top 5, and
we got to take her
back to Gabe Kazul. There it is, Michael Walls.
And it doesn't surprise me that he's the first one onto the pit lane. We've talked about him struggling on this long run. And to see Michael Walls pull the trigger here with just over 20 laps to go in this race, it is a ploy to try and even up the 3 stints of about 20 or so laps. He'll stop in his stall cleanly And there's the jacks going up on driver number 7. We'll see how quickly Ethan Fonseca and anybody else in this field, for that matter, decides to respond to this pit stop. If a caution flag comes out now, it is the perfect situation for Michael Walls. Everybody would have to pit, and he would stay out and take the lead. And that's exactly why, if you're Ethan Fonseca Moreno with now a 1.5 second lead on AJ Green, you might pit in this lap or the next one, but you certainly don't want too many laps between yourself and Michael Walls when it comes to pit lane, because he might just overcut you. And well, looks like he heard me, because he is bringing it down the pit lane now. Race leader Ethan Fonseca down the pit lane.
And now Michael Walls coming in a lap earlier. That should, in theory, mean that Michael Walls' lap 40 is going to be about 2 seconds faster than Ethan Fonseca Moreno's lap 40. Now that's in theory. It's not perfect, but considering both will have been in clean air, Michael Walls will have had fresher tires, he should theoretically be able to jump Ethan Fonseca Moreno, because he was not more than 2 seconds behind. So that's the play for Michael Walls. He doesn't only win out if there's a caution, but he very well could be, and by my math, should be the leader. I should say I barely passed AP Calculus, so my math is not always correct. But based off of what I'm thinking and what I'm calculating in my head, is there we see it, the 7 on the front straightaway. We'll see the blend. It's going to be close, but that 77 truck still has to get up to speed. Michael Walls will be at full speed and should be able to carry a little bit more momentum. That's the gap. It's all the way closed up. I wasn't quite right about the 7 jumping the 077, but he certainly closed the gap to much closer than it was beforehand, and we've got a renewed battle for the lead.
And now Moreno has a little bit of fresher tires to work with just by 1 lap. But you also have to remember, Nate, a lot of what makes these pit stop strategies work is how you get on and off the pit lane. And to overcome the advantage that Walls had for that 1 lap, that means a great entry and exit off the pit lane for the 077 to overcome some of the advantages that Walls had for the time being. And that's going to give him the net race lead for the time being. Numerous other trucks on pit road. You see a lot more. Colin Forster already on his way out. Trevor Haley, AJ Green. Looks like Forster may have made some kind of strategy call to get him a little bit further up compared to some of the rivals he was racing with. Trying to see the timing and scoring here. He had an 11.1 second pit stop, so 2-tire call here for Colin Forster. A little bit less fuel as he nearly makes contact with Gabe Cazzola. Cazzola still has not yet pitted. Actually, he has, but he was with momentum, and he gets around the 71. And that puts Charlie Beyer in the race lead.
Yeah, right now for the moment, Alexander Schumacher has gotten himself up here. Now I think if you're one of these guys that's further back in the field at the time of this pit stop window opened, you're doing almost the exact opposite of what Michael Walls did. Is you're going to now go ahead and run this all the way to the end of your window and hope that you catch a caution towards the end of this, so you come down pit road to pit on fresh tires and more fuel, of course, but maybe everyone else is enticed to do the same because they don't want to be at such a disadvantage to you guys.
And there's a little bit of a loose moment there for the 52 off of turn number 2. They'll have the battle with the 68 of Schumacher, and I think that 52 truck may bring it down the pit lane this time. Probably trying to lead a lap in this race, but he already did on the cross the start finish line, so Beyer will pit. That'll hand the top spot over to Schumacher. Connor Zola will take over the 2nd spot, with Tyler Murray taking home 3rd. Ethan Fonseca Moreno currently sits 7th on the racetrack. 6 trucks in front of him have yet to bring it down the pit lane. And it's Michael Walls that's just about 7/10 or so behind here, Nate, as we're inside 17 laps to go in this race, approaching 16. So it's a really good job from these trucks, and no pit road penalties at all during this green flag pit stop sequence. So it's been a really good effort by everybody on making this work.
And that's really impressive here at Pocono, because when you have such a long lead up to the entrance to pit road, it's paved up like that, there's no access road, it's really just a runway to get there. It can be really enticing to drive it in for all it's worth as you're coming to pit road, get super late jamming on the brakes, and completely throw your race away on a speeding penalty. So really impressive for these guys to not have nobody commit any penalty. Entry, exit, or in the middle of pit road. Looks like another taker further back. But this is the group up here that I think is going to run this as long as possible and hope to catch a caution.
And I don't see why not, really, for Alexander Schumacher. He's in a good point situation, so he can take that gamble. He might have a little bit of fresher tires to deal with towards the latter portion of this race, but if he's hoping that he can run long enough, and before he has to make that pit stop, the caution flag will wave, and he forces most of the field to come down pit road with him, so that he doesn't lose nearly as much track position, and anybody who stays out, he'll have better tires then. So it's not exactly a bad move for the 68, given his running position after the troubles from earlier on in the race. It forced him onto a different strategy, and he's done a decent job here of adapting to something different and trying to find something that works. Here, approaching 15 laps to go here, as Alexander Schumacher will now pit this lap. Let's take an opportunity to go crank it up here on the KBueno Racing Network. The caution flag waves here as the green flag pit stop sequence cycle was just completing. Connor Zola was the last truck on pit lane just as the yellow flag had waved. He was already on pit road. And I'm trying to see what timing and scoring has to say about who that yellow flag might have been, but I'm not seeing anybody in trouble at the time being. So let's see if we can look through the running order. We had just getting through our crank it up segment, and that's when the yellow flag flew. And I don't see anybody on the racetrack, Nate, to indicate where the trouble may have been.
Yeah, not quite sure where this one could have started at. But it comes a lap or two too late to really turn this race on its head. And I do believe that we have found our culprit. It's the 18 of Keelan Belsha. As in way deep, almost hits the 16. And bad to worse to even worse for Keelan Belsha. He's had his fair share of struggles in this one from the Pocono Mountains.
Yeah, I'm not too sure exactly the situation there. With the 18 truck, he was by himself, and he was approaching the stricken truck of Duncan Fall up ahead, and I'm not sure if he didn't see him or what the case may have been, but he stopped on the brakes, spun out, hit the wall, but he never went around, so I'm not sure what the caution flag, if it was by iRacing or an admin, but see right here, Belsha goes into the corner, Fall sees it, tries to go high, and I'm not sure if he was just slow on the track and that was enough for the yellow flag, but a strange yellow nonetheless, as the 18 truck is 34 laps down in this race.
Well, one thing's for sure, it does mean we're going to have another restart, which means we're going to have to see another defense out of Ethan Fonseca Moreno. And we also get our first restart with this newly jumbled lead group, which after green flag pit stops, some things have shaken up. It's Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Michael Walls 1 and 2. But take a look at that. Brandon Banks, Gabe Cazzola, a couple of new guys further up in the field that they've been.
Yeah, Colin Forster, remember, on his 2 tires stop, he's worked his way into this top 5. Don't forget about him. You got Trevor Haley, AJ Green, Justin Roth further down. And decision time. Who pits, who stays out? Looks like a good portion of this field is pitting. But do remember, somebody who pitted just as the yellow flag came out was Connor Zola. A couple of trucks will stay out. Charlie Byer among one of them. JJ Hill, another. Looks like Tyler Murray, Craig Parks, Connor Zola. So we've got not everybody bringing it down the pit lane, Nate. And I figured this would be the case when we saw the driver staying out under the green flag as long as possible. But We'll see here now, does any alternative strategies arise as far as 2 tires or fuel only? Looks like possibly some 2-tire calls there for AJ Green. It certainly is for Moreno, who win the race off pit road. Michael Newbraw does so as well. So not everybody taking 4 tires here on this caution flag pit stop, but not everybody pitting. So you look at the stints on their run. JJ Hill, race leader, he's 6 laps into his run. Charlie Byers, second place in the racetrack, 5 laps. Tyler Murray, 3. Craig Parks, 4. And Connor Zola, who the yellow flag came out as he was exiting the pit lane. So your top 5, they may have stayed out, and yes, they may have older tires, but now they have track position with really not so much older tires.
Yeah, it'll be extremely interesting to see how this plays out, because there is a tire advantage, but you're right. It's not that 2 seconds that we talked about at the end of the green flag run. And for Connor Zola, he didn't even get a hot lap on those tires. He just has pretty much run a couple extra pace laps compared to the rest of the field here. And we also have confirmation that that was a iRacing thrown yellow for the 18 being sideways on that caution.
And while we have a chance under this caution, let's see if we can have a chance to talk to our new race leader, JJ Hill, with the alternative strategy after waiting to pit under the green flag. It gets you this opportunity to take the lead here late in this one. How's your race been, and how did you think about getting into this situation?
Well, I mean, we just pit there. It's only been, I think, 4 laps since we pit, and track position kind of means almost everything here today. And just kind of wanted to just give it a shot, roll the dice, see if we can't get a better finish. I mean, might as well.
You got 10 laps to go in this race, JJ. Your playoff hopes, at least right now, still mathematically eligible, but it is a long shot. Is a play for the win or a top 5 finish really what you're looking for to try and keep those playoff hopes alive, or what's going through your mind?
Honestly, it's just trying to maximize the day here, and I think the best way to do that is probably stay out here and hope they keep wrecking.
We wish you luck in these closing 10 laps of the scheduled race here, JJ. Good luck.
All right, thank you, guys.
As JJ Hill, new race leader, as he will try to do his best in the closing stages of this race to try and take home a potential race win, which would carry the streak to 8. Really, anybody in the front of the field right now can continue that streak up to 8, Nate. So we're not out of the woods yet. We'll see what happens in these last couple of laps, but I tell you what, this strategy call, not a bad one, and it's really going to shake things up.
Yeah, you see, I don't know what we're going to see. I got a one-word guess, and that's chaos.
I think that's the right
combination, one. With the combination of tire difference, as well as some new fresh faces at the front of this field. We talked about these guys going, 8 wide down the front stretch, so you could land a 747 on. We might see that on this restart.
We just might. And by the way, 747s definitely could not land on the front straightaway of Pocono. It's a long front straightaway, but even with like empty weight, the 747 certainly needs about 8,000 feet of runway to even touch down. But I mean, it does kind of feel that way with just how long it looks from the driver's seat. Interesting restart here with 10 laps to go. JJ Hill will get an excellent launch in the restart zone as Byron Murray struggle to get going. We'll see them fan out here. And remember, not everybody's on 4 tires. We do have some 2-tire calls. Some drivers already looking 3, maybe even 4 wide further back.
Fanned out everywhere they go. Trevor hit. Oh, car went way high. I think that was Gabe Cazzola's up in the outside wall in turn number 1. He bounced back off of it.
And that's Tony Kivitt.
He shot 95 shot up the hill on the right side of our screen as we went wide shot, but that's Tony Kivitt getting the worst of it for sure.
And that's a driver on the playoff bubble, Tony Kivitt, who was only a handful of points out before this race. So here's a overhead look at the incident. You get a good look of those drivers just barely inside the top 10. And there you see Cazzola, who was peeking to the inside of Banks, who was kind of going defensive. No trucks to his outside, but Cazzola was committed to that inside lane. But you see, gets into Banks. 68 of Schumacher jumps in. Oh my goodness, a tumble in turn 1 here for the 55. Shades of Zane Smith.
Yeah, just about. I think someone was running a bet on if someone was going to end up doing that today, and that might have cashed out. I don't know what the odds were there on Shoei Sportsbook, but let's take another look at this. This is the onboard, and oh, this is going to be sick to watch. And this is nowhere to go for the 55. He goes up on his side in an instant almost.
And it landed on its wheels, so he actually was able to drive that car back. Normally when cars flip, their engine is toast of some sorts, but Tony Kivet able to land on its wheels and drive it back around. We'll try to get one more look at it, this time from the 68 of Alexander Schumacher, who was also caught up in that incident. So here's on board with Shuey as he went going behind Cazzola, so he has a good look at the initial incident, and then obviously was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Already one huge block thrown by the 5. Cazzola keeps peeking inside and is late on the brakes, and I mean it happens so fast. They just come together and immediately up the hill goes everybody.
And it looked like for a moment there, Nate, that when the contact between Banks and Kivet occurred, it was a ricochet factor of the 68 hitting the 5 as the 5 hit the wall, as the 5 hits the 55. All those three things happening at the same time resulted in some really weird contact, and that's what allowed the weird flipping situation for Tony Kivet. And that'll put us under a caution once again, I believe, for the 6th time this evening. A great restart for JJ Hill, by the way, who keeps the race lead. I'm sure part of him probably wanted to see that go green because he had a big gap worked up. Now he's in a peculiar spot because he's going to have a teammate of Charlie Beyer lining up in the 2nd row in the 52 truck. He could probably work with him to try and time this restart out and try and get those 2 trucks settled out in the front of the field. But we'll also have less laps to go in this race, less laps for trucks with tires to make any advantage. You got to look at this order. The first truck of those that pitted right now is the 6 of Michael Newbraw. He got ahead of Moreno during that cycle, and with what we're going to have approximately 6 laps to go on this restart, it's less laps for those tires to be able to do anything with, and those 2 tires will certainly start equaling out with some of these older tires the more laps we get into them, because it's one thing if the tires are fresh off the blankets, if you will, they're bolted onto the tires brand new, versus some that maybe are slightly worn in, versus one that's been worn in for 20 versus one that's been worn in for 15 as an example. At some point, it's not much there. You might gain a second a lap on new tires, but eventually it starts fading into a couple tenths to almost a tenth.
Are you getting deja vu talking about tires equalizing on a number of late race restarts and guys running out of time to make moves on new tires? Because I'm getting a little bit of deja vu here. Well, last week was a break from it on the dirt, but it's every single week it's the same conversation of do you stay out, do you come in? And those guys that had been on their tires for 7-8 laps didn't really have a choice but to come in and pit, right? But these guys that were in there for only 5 or so laps on the tires, that is definitely an opportunity they had, and they take advantage of it, and now they are in the advantageous spot in the catbird seat of this race, if you will, because these laps are going to keep ticking off. I would not be shocked if there was another accident here to tick off even more laps on this restart.
And let's be clear about one thing, and he'll admit this as well. JJ Hill has nothing to lose with this strategy call. He made this call because he was in a good spot to even try it, tire-wise and position-wise, to go for it. He probably didn't have the win in mind when he made that strategy. He doesn't feel that confident in his pace at all. But given the fact that he had a great restart, that he has a teammate behind him now with 6 laps to go and tires are way far back, he probably is maybe starting to creep in on the conversation of winning this race. And if he does go on to take the win here today, that could be the entire season highlight for JJ Hill, to grab not just a win, but a win at a non-super speedway. JJ Hill feels most confident at tracks like Daytona and Talladega to capture his wins. If he can say he's won at Pocono, that'll be a career highlight for the driver of the 21. He's going to have to navigate these restarts, though. He's going to have 6 laps to go. Tyler Murray to his outside, a friend in Charlie Beyer behind him in the 3rd slot, with Connor Zola in the 4th spot. Into the restart zone, he waits a little bit better, but Murray gets a great launch, and Connor Zola does as well back to turn 1.
And that's the exact problem with waiting until the end of the restart zone to go. when it gets to a point where that truck on your outside is like, well, you can only there's only so much more room for you to go. It's a lot easier to jump it. They're side by side for the lead as they roll through turn 1. JJ Hill and Tyler Murray battling one another. Connor Zola behind them. They get through turn 1 clean.
Connor Zola now has a choice to make. Who does he push to try and take over this race lead? Does he help the truck on the outside? The answer is yes for now. JJ trying to fight as hard as he can on the inside. Hill's going to drift up a little bit. Nearly gets into Murray, but Tyler Murray takes the lead as
Zola got
Zola
the wall.
slams the outside wall. He's going to drop positions. Here comes Michael Newbraw with the new tires.
Michael Newbron now fires it down the inside of turn number 3. Connor Zola had a little step out in the tunnel turn and then got the wall on corner exit. But out in front, it's Tyler Murray with a little gap to the field. How is everyone else going to be able to chase him down?
And JJ Hill right now is hanging on to second. He's going to try to battle for every spot he can now with 5 laps remaining. Newbraw, though, will use the new tires if he can to try and grip his way around. He gets into the 21 truck, and he's going to send Hill around. Around goes Newbraw. Big crash in the front of the field in turn 1. Moreno's
Oh my goodness,
in it.
everybody.
Michael Walls, Craig Lautenschlager, Curtis Kelly, Charlie Beyer. Numerous trucks involved here off of turn 1. The big one here to set us into overtime.
Wow.
Unreal. And you can see that happening, Nate, with the way they were racing, with the difference in tires. And there's Michael Newbraw. Had a run on JJ Hill, tried to use the new tires to his advantage, throws it into turn 1 here. And even with the tires, he just doesn't have the grip, drips up the racetrack, gets into the 21. At the same time, then he gets hit by the 75, and then they just all start driving in. Michael Walls and a couple other trucks hit a piece of it. And really, there's Micah spinning after the main wreck, and Newbraw too, Lautenschlager, numerous other drivers also getting in it. And then further back, more trucks in trouble. Looks like Curtis Kelly, Gabe Cazzola, among others. Just a lot of carnage here in the field. We have to get multiple replay views of this incident. Here's another look at it, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, it's this chaos all over the place here. We saw what happened up at the front with Newbraw and Green coming together on the inside of JJ Hill, but further back, everything, it looks good, and they start crashing up front. Everyone's starting to scramble. Rock gets hit, Forrester gets hit, and everyone just kind of runs through each other. And I'm not sure that anybody was able to get through that accident without any kind of contact.
And one of the dominant drivers of the night, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who had lost some ground there after the troubles with the timing of the caution. This is his view of the incident as he gets a piece of it off of turn number 1. Gets hit from behind, hits the front end of his race truck. Might not be all too bad for him, but certainly has to go out there and repair the race truck. I'll tell you, the truck doesn't look nearly as bad as some of these others, as he nearly gets hit there, and actually he does have some suspension damage on that 77 truck. But so many trucks, Nate, got damage from that incident that we could have some damaged trucks still battling for top 10 spots.
We might have damaged trucks battling for the race win with as many trucks got a piece of that accident. Out in front, though, was Tyler Murray ahead of it all. AJ Green once again in the conversation for the race win. Trevor Haley, he's up there as he's going to look to continue to build his gap over the cut line.
And out of those trucks that remain on the racetrack right now, it looks like approximately 12, yes, counted 12, on the lead lap have stayed out. First one off pit road here is Michael Walls, who sustained very minimal damage from that spin. He'll bolt on some tires here. Actually, he just fueled up. A 4.1 second stop here for the 7 truck. As most of the rest of the field, there's Moreno without a bumper. Craig Pizzola will exit the pit lane with 4 fresh tires. And a lot of trucks sitting stranded on pit lane. What could have been a great day for Moreno to really gain on the cut line now. He's going to remain in that bubble area, really by no doing of his own. He ran a great race. The timing of the caution was a little bit ill. He had to bring it back down the pit lane to get some better tires. He felt took 2, but just enough trucks stayed out. We get the extra caution flag and ultimately shuffles up the field, and There's Newbraw, who is a part of the center of that incident and ends up getting his damage repaired as much as possible. He'll be back out on his way. And Tyler Murray now here with the race lead. AJ Green in second, Trevor Haley in third, Craig Parks in fourth, and Travis Van Usendorp is your top five. And that doesn't end right there, Nate, because sixth place is Chris Progor. Lance Hill in his debut is 7th, Jason Hastings in 8th, Christopher Bishop in 9th, and Craig Lautenslager rounds out your top 10. You know what that tells me? 9 of the top 10 have not won a race this season.
8 for 8, starting to look really, really good.
Minus 2,500, don't you think?
Yeah, that might just be the Shoei Sportsbook odds on going 8 for 8, which at the start of the season, I don't even want to know what the odds would have been at the start of the season. Astronomical would be my guess.
And then here we are
And
in the late stages of this one, and we're going to see if Tyler Murray can hang on. It looks like the caution was extended, but we will be in overtime no matter what. This will be our first attempt at overtime from the Pocono Raceway. To briefly explain our overtime rules, if the caution flag comes out before the white flag is out, as we actually take the one to green now, so the caution has been reduced, we'll be going green this time by. If the yellow flag comes out before the white flag, the caution we'll rack them up and do it again, and we have up to 3 attempts to do so. If the caution flag comes out on the third and final attempt of overtime, the race will end, and whoever's leading at the time of caution will be our unofficial race winner for tonight. If we get to the white flag before a caution comes out, the race will be official at the checkered flag, no matter what. So that was something I was sweating at in Indianapolis when there was a wreck in turn 4. I wasn't even at probably the start of the pit wall, and I heard cars wrecking. I've seen cars possibly flipping. And somehow the caution flag didn't come out, so really happy that that worked out for me, but maybe somebody might not have that same kind of luck here as we're getting ready for our first attempt of overtime.
lots of new faces and lots of faces that are hovering around that playoff cut line.
And there's a look at your field getting ready for this overtime restart. The reduced field here is now only 20 or even 19 cars are on the lead lap. There's the restart. Tyler Murray gets a decent launch with help from Trevor Haley, who now peaks to the bottom, trying to go for the race lead into turn 1.
Why not send it off immediately? Trevor Haley all the way to the bottom, trying to make it stick. Why not just make it work in one corner? They start to wash out on his rear bumper, side by side with Haley and Green for the lead down the backstretch. Long pond.
And there's Green with the run on the outside with push from Tyler Murray. Green gets clear. Murray he tries to come down, makes contact with the tall truck, and they're making more contact. Here comes Travis Van Usendorp, and now they're wrecking. The 17 of Chris Progor goes around. Another big crash off the tunnel turn. And that'll keep us in overtime for attempt number 2.
Helps a couple of other trucks get back some of that track position they lost. The guys that were able to get to that first big crash cleanly were able to gain back a little bit of space. I think namely Gabe Cazzola was one who really fired his way through that wreck. As you see what happens here on board with Tyler Murray, pushing that 75 out in front. And then he gets hit on the entrance to the tunnel, tries to save it, and he really does do a good job of saving it. And it's everybody else. Progor among the guys that kind of get into it. The 2 took an absolute lick from the 36, and that's got to be a sick feeling behind the wheel, as being totally helpless, backed up trying to save it, and then to actually succeed in saving it, only to get run over from behind.
Yeah, it's a terrible feeling for a driver when they're in that situation, but it's an unfortunate factor. Here's the view from Progor. There's the 36 getting sideways. Parks gets some contact as he tries to go around the outside. Looks like Progor trying to shoot the gap through the middle, but unfortunately there wasn't really a really credible opportunity to try and go past right there, as cars were drifting up as he was trying to split a gap that was closing quicker than he could realize. And That, unfortunately, is really where that wreck started. We'll try and see if we get a different look at the incident as they were going through that part of the racetrack. One of those trucks involved was Lance Hill. And we'll try and get that to you here. So here's another look at it. As Lance Hill was the truck that went all the way to the inside to try and avoid this. Murray peeks down. There's the contact with Haley. They save it. And right there, there's the gap being shut by the 17. And it nearly sends the 19 going up and over. Numerous other trucks would then pile in. Craig Lavenslucker with some big front end damage to his truck. And Duncan Fall, I'll tell you what, with all the trouble that the 16 has seen in this one, as it stands right now, he is the first car one lap down. He is going by the field to get on the lead lap, and he is in the 19th spot.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, I'm not saying there isn't. So Duncan Fall here with double overtime here in Pocono Raceway will be on the lead lap. So if there's a big enough crash on the white flag lap, that it could be something that really helps the 16 in his regular season championship hopes, which looked like it could have been dashed. But second life here for the 16 after a lot of his competition has suffered some real big impacts. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer had an early exit. He is currently 29th. Justin Rott, also with his fair share of issues, is right now in 11th. So, but that could easily close the gap to almost 0, especially with positions yet to change here in this race. But once again, it just puts some really interesting drivers up here at the front of the field. Leading the race is AJ Green, who came up a spot short last week from Knoxville. Trevor Haley, the Daytona winner, looking to be the first driver to win multiple races in this series. Travis Van Oostendorp, who had a great run at Daytona as well, and a couple of strong runs going for him at other racetracks. He's in 3rd. Craig Parks in 4th. Christopher Bishop in 5th. Jason Hastings in 6th. Michael Walls, who came in for that fuel-only stop. Don't count out this 7 truck from trying to mount a late race challenge, especially after that restart we saw. Curtis Kelly, Gabe Cazola, and Michael Newbrawl will be in the 10th spot. Newbrawl, you can still see the damage on that 6 truck, but he's still in the top 10. And with the amount of trucks remaining, the amount of competitive trucks remaining, all on your screen right now, it is far from over.
And what a turn of events for Craig Parks in this race. He was really not much of a factor most of this deal, but now he finds himself in row 2 for a double overtime restart. Coming into this race minus 12, he could end up being one of the big winners points-wise today.
It'll be all, when the points are said and done, we'll get those confirmed by Keelan at the checkered flag after the conclusion of tonight's race to give you the accurate information as far as where everybody sits, what the gaps are to the cut line, who might end up in a guaranteed spot in points going into the next race. You have to keep that in mind as well. There's drivers that, as early as this race, were going to be able to lock themselves into the points. Among those, generally speaking, will be your top 3 of Jurgensmeyer, Fall, and Raw. It doesn't look like Jurgensmeyer will clinch a official locked-in spot on points in this race with this 29th place effort. But Justin Rott and Duncan Fall potentially could still possibly guarantee themselves a spot in the Season 1 playoffs here from Pocono. Any last words before our second attempt of overtime, Nate?
Good luck to these drivers, because it's going to be just as chaotic with everyone fighting for these points in the win.
I don't think I have anything else to say. That sounds just about right. And AJ Green, after the heartbreak last week, we'll see how aggressive he tries to beat Craig Parks in an unorthodox position, normally really contentious at the super speedways. Might try to pull something out of his sleeve to get a victory here at Pocono. Second attempt at overtime. It's going to be AJ Green and Trevor Haley on the front row. Green chooses the outside lane for this restart, and it will be him and Parks trying to work it together. Pace car exits off the racetrack. That'll put us into the restart zone at the hands of AJ Green, who gets a great launch at that matter, as you see a couple trucks stacking up behind, as now Green will cover the lane to the inside. Michael Wall's already looking for 3 wide. He's got help from Gabe Cazola, nearly 4 wide with Chris Fowler to the inside.
Perfect restart from AJ Green. Commands all the lanes.
Cazola goes sideways. Big crash.
Once again, Cautions breed cautions.
And this will put us into our final attempt at overtime here from the Pocono Raceway. We'll have one more shot at trying to finish this race in green flag conditions. And here's a look at the incident. We saw Cazzola go sideways. He had teammate Justin Rock behind him, pushing him. And into turn one, it just, they started stacking up. I'm not sure if that was from the two truck, as you see Fowler peek down low, and yeah, looks like that two truck further up ahead gets into the back of Cazzola, gets numerous of these other trucks involved, so we'll have to get an onboard look here from the Fowler machine, as it looks like he just
That was
sent it
interesting.
way in there. Yeah, it looked like he went very deep into turn number one there. I'm not sure if he took tires on that last pit stop or not, Nate, but he went in there expecting more grip than what he had.
On board here. Gets around the 76. He's taking it for all it's worth. Taking all the open space that he can. And just carries so much more momentum than anyone else and just absolutely wipes out the 95.
Interestingly enough, Nate, and this is not me trying to speculate, but through a lot of that incident, he was on the throttle. You can hear the throttle on that two truck there for a good portion of that turn. So I'm not sure if that's, if he had, it almost feels like he has some kind of an issue screen wise, because it just it didn't align with what I was processing there.
Yeah, typically the apex of turn one at Pocono in the middle of a pack on a restart is not a place that you're throttling up. So it's certainly interesting to see that. And obviously you hope that there was, technical malfunction more than anything. Of course, there's other uglier things that could be speculated, but I'll stay away from those. It's no secret that the 95 does not have many friends on the racetrack.
And just like that, one last attempt. If we don't get to the white flag before an incident comes out, the race will be over, and whoever leads at the time of caution will be declared the winner here from Pocono. So anything can happen between us taking that green flag, getting to the white flag, or even possibly a checkered flag. So you have to be prepared, especially if you're anybody on the front two rows, for a caution flag potentially ending this race. So I think that just mounts to the pressure of everybody trying to get everything they can, knowing that at any moment, any incident, any yellow will end the race, and that's your position.
Yeah, it's we may not get through turn one again just because people are trying to get everything that it's worth getting these spots, because there's nothing anyone can do at this point. This is it. And we've seen what this kind of overtime situation has led drivers to do in real life. Of course, you think about the race that caused NASCAR to go to overtime limits or to remove overtime limits in the Cup Series 2015 at Talladega. Probably one of the uglier moments in the history of NASCAR overtime. Of course, again, you hope you don't see anything like that. But if you're a driver that's kind of desperate on points or desperate for a win, and you send it through turn one, and then that caution comes out, your spot's frozen. And some drivers may see that as a potential benefit.
And now we have taken the one to green, and you see just how few trucks remain, how few competitive trucks remain. We started the field with 31 tonight. We had 31 trucks sign up for tonight's race that took a part of the green flag. On the lead lap, there are 15. That is less than 50% of the cars that started this race are currently sitting on the lead lap, the last of which is the 21 of JJ Hill. So much so that Moreno, who's involved in one of those cautions that brought out the first overtime restart attempt, he's back up to the 7th spot. He is the 4th car on the inside lane. Michael Walls in front of him was in that incident. He's the 5th car, or the 3rd car in the inside lane in 5th. So those drivers have some better equipment. They've got their trucks repaired. They could try and make some kind of charge here late, knowing that every truck in front of them has some kind of damage that they're contending with. And this time it'll be AJ Green once again leading the charge from the outside lane. Can he get a good restart from Trevor Haley this time and try to see if he could put the show to bed?
He nailed it last time. Certainly gonna look for that same advantage again here. AJ Green wants redemption from a week ago. Trevor Haley wants to be the first multiple race winner of the season.
So many storylines here at the front of the field, and in the back of it all, playoffs keep ringing because we are around the corner. Third and final overtime restart attempt here from the Pocono Raceway field, back in the hands of AJ Green and Trevor Haley, and into the restart zone. Great launch from AJ Green. Trevor Haley tries to get pushed by Travis Van Usendorf, who keeps pushing on that back bumper of the 12. We'll see if AJ Green tries to mount some kind of a charge, or 3 wide for third. There's Michael Walls peeking to the bottom.
And there's nearly an accident there on the restart. Speaking of, Trevor Haley slides. Michael Walls got into his rear bumper. AJ Green up and away down Long Pond straightaway. Somehow, some way, they're able to keep it clean. AJ Green in the catbird seat at Pocono.
And don't discount Michael Wall's effort as he's trying to see if he can mount a charge there with some slightly better tires. Michael Walls is not out of it yet, trying to capture his first career win, and he's got a great run through the tunnel turn.
Absolutely phenomenal run from Michael Walls through the tunnel turn. He's going to see if he can bottle it up once again in turn number 3. This race far from over. They're coming down the long front straightaway to see the white flag. Everyone at the front of this field, Michael Walls, is hoping that they keep it clean further back. AJ Green says, yeah, I'll see a yellow flag anytime now. White flag one more time.
Now he has to fight it out for this next lap. What does Michael Walls have in store? What does Trevor Haley have in store from the 3rd place spot? And we know Walls will be aggressive. He'll do anything it takes to win this race. Let's see what he does from 2/10 back of AJ Green. These two were some tough contenders over at the Knoxville Raceway. AJ Green came up a spot short and he was upset. Felt like he had a really good chance to win. He's now in the prime position to take home his first win of the series. Michael Walls trying everything he can. He drives it in deep to the tunnel turn, has to lift off exit. Trevor Haley slams the wall. One last opportunity for the number 7 truck. He'll try to see if he can dive it into turn number 3, but it just won't be enough. And it's AJ Green with the comeback effort after coming up short at Knoxville. He'll hang on in triple overtime and win from Pocono.
What a great job to defend by AJ Green. Redeems himself from the shortcoming a week ago. And he's able to survive not just 3 overtimes, but throw in another late race restart on top of that as well. Great effort to redeem himself from last week and very likely jump himself in the playoff position.
That's really going to help his situation, as there's the Moreno spin after somebody wins the race. As Michael Walls comes up short in 2nd place. His, I believe, 3rd or 4th top 3 effort on the season. That's really going to help him make back some of those points he lost from those 2 weeks he was off. Trevor Haley with his first top 3 efforts since Daytona. I believe Travis Van Usendorf with an excellent top 5 effort. And Moreno is able to come away with his 2nd straight top 5 after the troubles early on to start the overtime session. As I don't think Moreno's done. It's his trademark. But this moment is all about AJ Green, and he'll celebrate very fittingly here on the front straightaway, as he'll be the 8th different winner in 8 races. AJ Green wins from Pocono. And that was a hard-fought win there, Nate, as he was trying everything he could during those overtime restarts, timing them well, getting through the incidents. You remember the incident with Murray and Trevor Haley. That really gave him the advantage to take the lead away and not have to worry about trying to time someone else's restart. And that was all he needed to seal up the win after really what was a disappointing end to his Knoxville race.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal job to maintain a cool head through all those restarts. I'm sure there was more than a few moments where he said, man, really, I just want this race to run green. I'm out here clear by 3 truck lengths and pulling away, and now I got to go fight again. But he nailed each and every one of those restarts. which is so much faster than all the rest of the field. Was able to beat everyone through turn 1 and establish himself well down the backstretch. And he was able to put up a good defense as well. The run Michael Walls had on him coming out of the tunnel turn on the second to last lap here, Walls definitely could have made a move down the inside. He didn't fully commit to it, but that was due in part to the great defense of AJ Green.
Great defense by AJ Green to be the 8th different winner this season, and it's a really good comeback effort considering his Knoxville affair. Let's go through our unofficial race results here from the Pocono Raceway, and it starts with our race winner AJ Green. Did a great job here to capture the win, being the 8th different winner in 8 races. Michael Walls will be just 1 spot short up in second. Trevor Haley with a great top 3 effort here from the Triangle Raceway. He'll finish on the podium spot. Travis Van Usendorp with his best career finish. He'll finish in the 4th spot, with Ethan Fone second Renault rounding out your top 5. Craig Parks in the number 53 will do a solid job in 6th. Chris Progar, after involved in a couple late incidents, recovers nicely for a 7th place effort. Lance Hill in his series debut will finish in the 8th spot. Curtis Kelly will finish in the 9th position there. Michael Newbrawl will round out your top 10, Nate.
Yeah, and 11th we got Connor Zola, who was the last car to come pit under green. Then it's Justin Rott. Duncan Fall was destroyed on lap 2, came back to finish 13th. Then it's Tyler Murray and JJ Hill, who were up front for that first of those late race restarts. Christopher Bishop finishes 16th. Chris Fowler had himself a few heavy incidents in this race, comes away to finish 17th. Jason Hastings 18th. Gabe Cazola was in the middle of just about everything. He finished 19th. Craig Lautenslager rounds out the top 20.
And 21st will go to the number 52 of Charlie Beyer, who had a chance at it late there on one of those alternative strategies on the start of overtime. Colin Forrester will finish in the 22nd spot. Tony Kivett will finish 23rd. Needed those points to stay in that cut line battle. We'll just have to see after the points are done. Alexander Schumacher had a great run going, finishes 24th for one of his unfortunately worst results of the season. Brandon Banks will finish 25th. Keelan Belsha with a not so ideal night will finish 26th. Kyle Benson 27th. Nicholas Baumann will finish 28th. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer in 29th. 30th goes to the Rivers Jones machine, and Mikey Nee will be our last place finisher tonight here from the Pocono Raceway. And this allows us to talk finally to our race winner here in AJ Green. And I'll tell you what, Nate, after the disappointment from last week, it's now a bittersweet victory for AJ Green. AJ, after that tough loss, you can say, about Knoxville, you come back here, you run well, you're able to mount that charge late in the overtime restarts. Talk us through what it was like in the situation, knowing after the defeat from the dirt track to hop here into Pocono and capture the race win.
It feels great. I haven't been into a victory lane in a league race in a while. Yeah, the truck felt good. I was actually shocked by that. I thought it was going to be really tight, and it was loose. So I liked that. But on that last pit stop, I took 2 to try to jump some trucks. It worked. I dodged the wrecks. I accidentally caused the wreck. Sorry to Newbraw. But we got the win at the end, so
It was
that's
a
all that
good
matters.
It was a good fight there for you, AJ, and you've had a couple of solid runs this season so far. So when you look at the greater respect of the performances you've been able to have and the starts that you've made this season and the potential for a playoff push here in the last couple of races, what has really been something that has stood out to you through these first 8, and what are your goals here into the second half of the season as far as possibly making that playoff push, or what exactly are you aiming for here?
Well, at the beginning of the season, I didn't know if I was gonna run the whole season, and I've missed a couple because of school. But missing a couple, still being, I might be in the playoffs now. Still being able, I'm gonna go try to win the championship. I'm gonna try to make the races as I can. Hopefully, school doesn't get too much in the way. But yeah, I'm gonna go for a championship if I can.
And this brings me on to the second question that kind of ties into that, AJ, is that you mentioned a little bit earlier that it's been a while since you've been to Victory Lane, and that's been particularly true in the Wednesday night series on our channel. And what does a win like this do as far as giving you any kind of momentum that you can take with you into those Wednesday night events? Anything at all?
Oh, I mean, it definitely makes me happy, and if you're happy, I think you do better. It's never good racing mad or irritated at something. So, kind of having a win, having a good start to the week, you just try to build off of it, and hopefully I can get a good finish at Montreal and win in four wide.
And before we let you go, AJ, from this fantastic winning effort here from tonight's race, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps make this happen for you and your 75 truck team?
Yeah, shout out to Curtis, Colin, Lance. They all had interesting races, good races. Shout out to y'all in the booth, Kenneth, and yeah,
Appreciate the time you take with us, AJ. Congratulations on the race win here tonight. We hope to see you out next week at the Darlington Raceway.
thank you.
It's AJ Green, race winner here tonight from the Pocono Raceway, looking to try and win the championship now that he's got that win. And those points will most likely really help him put him on the positive side of that cut line. We're just waiting on word from Keelan Belsha to get us those official standings. But nonetheless, it will move on with our interviews, and we'll go to our second place finisher from tonight's race. We'll be caught with Nate Polite. It is the or not the number 12 of Trevor Haley, but it'll be the number 7 of Michael Walls, who's with you, Nate.
Micah, congratulations on a second place finish. First time I've gotten a chance to talk to you here in an interview in a moment. But just take me through those late wrecks, if you will. How were we able to navigate getting through those as best as you could?
Yeah, well, I really wish I wouldn't have got caught in the first couple of wrecks. We probably would have had a much better shot at winning there if we didn't wreck on the bumps on the bottom. But yeah, we were just able to manage all the wrecks and get really lucky somehow, some way, and be really aggressive on the restart there and get second. So.
And then on that last restart, on the second to last lap, you had a huge run coming out of the tunnel turn, going toward AJ Green. Was there anything you could have done differently chasing down the 75?
Probably not. I think my tires were a little cooked after wrecking, so I was just giving it everything she had. So.
And then I know it ended up being inconsequential, but you came to pit road first under the green flag, and that was a pretty gutsy call. Was it always the plan to undercut the leader in that situation?
Yeah, well, I was at the end of that run, I was starting to lose a little bit of time there to ETB, so I decided probably need to undercut him there, see what happened, and then at the very end of it, there was a caution. So.
And before we let you head off here, is there anyone that you'd like to thank for this run for your 17?
I got a shout out to Goat guys, got a shout out to Bill, and shout out to Nate.
Thank you very much, and congratulations again on a second place finish, Micah.
Thank you.
And that's Michael Walls, runner up here from tonight's race here at the Pocono Raceway. Great stuff there, Nate, as always. And unfortunately for Micah, it's going to have to wait another week before he can call himself a race winner here in the KBRN Truck Series. We'll move back one step, and now we'll get to probably talk to the number 12 machine of Trevor Haley, as it's another top 3 effort from you this season, Trevor. It was a hectic race there. You had the lead in overtime, then you didn't, then you did, then you didn't. The contact with Murray there late gave the lead to the 75. Talk us through what was like going through those late race motions, and what more you felt like you could have done that could have possibly given you a chance at that race win.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened with Tyler. He said he came down, but I haven't looked at it yet. I just needed more laps. I think that second green right checker, if that caution didn't come out, I think I would have had a run come in at a 1. Maybe could have challenged AJ, but we had that caution, and then that last green right checker, I just got ran over going into 1. So.
It was a really good night for you, Trevor. You had some top 5 speed in the truck from the drop of the green flag, and it's just something we haven't really seen on the last couple of races. Feels like it's been a struggling month of September for you, but this good run here could possibly give you some much needed momentum going forward as we start going into this final playoff push. So with now Darlington and Auto Club remaining, what are the goals for you and this 12 truck team prior to the playoffs?
Yeah, I've had a few weeks for sure. Hopefully this could, build on some momentum to head into the playoffs and have a good run. hopefully win championship. We'll see what happens.
And we'll see what that happens when we show up to the Darlington and Auto Club Raceway to complete our regular season here, Trevor. And before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout out to on this podium effort? Anybody on this 12 truck team?
Yeah, shout out to my teammate Nick and Juan and you and Kenneth for setting all this up and everybody watching.
Congratulations on your top 3 effort here from the Pocono Raceway, Trevor. And we hope to see you out next time out here from the Darlington Raceway. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's Trevor Haley, 3rd place finisher from tonight's event here from the Pocono Raceway, Nate. And I believe on the phone we do have a special request here, and I'll comply because this ought to be good. And you're caught up, I'm hearing, with Travis Van Usendorp.
Absolutely. And Travis, congratulations on the 4th place finish, your best finish so far in the season. Of course, you're not able to run all these races, and you qualified well today. And it went bad really, really quickly. Lap 2, you were nose deep in the outside wall. 25 laps later, you're back in the top 10. You come home P4. Just kind of take me through the chaos of this race.
Yeah, me being the just intelligent person I am, cleared myself on old River Jones, like on lap 3, and it's kind of just playing catch up from there on out. Also got Duncan involved, and I am really, really sorry to those two. I didn't mean to do that, obviously. But after that, didn't take tires, kind of just rolled around in the back until we got another caution. Everybody got back on the same cycle. I took 4 and just slowly made my way through the fields. I think we might have had another caution somewhere in there, but I made my way up to like 9th there and then rode for a little bit, kept on battling with the 39, but it really just, it was all positioning after the final caution, or the first, I guess the caution in the middle of the cycle to end the cycle. Just all trying to get through all those wrecks. Made it through like a 7-car wreck and gained 7 spots from that. It was a lot of luck, but it's a great finish, great day.
And the wreck in the tunnel turn, I believe it was on the 2nd overtime attempt, happened right in front of you. I believe you ended up face first in the rear bumper of the 12 truck as well. What's it like trying to navigate through a crash when it literally develops right in your lap?
It's a lot of just praying that you don't get involved. It's kind of situational if you brake or not. I kind of just throttled up there because I figured they were all going to slide up because how that corner's, designed. It's not really designed for anybody to come back down. It's designed for them to all fly back up the track. So at that point, I was kind of just gassing it up and hoping Trevor would kind of slide up the track as well and get out of my way, and I could take 2nd, which if we stayed green, might have ended that way, but had another caution. I was just stuck in 3rd.
And of course, not really racing for points in this series. So when you come to the track, is it all about doing everything you can to win strategy-wise, or is it mostly about the learning curve?
I don't really expect to win. I kind of just join the lobby and hope I finish top 10. I kind of just, that's my goal usually, is to finish top 10. Didn't do that at Charlotte. Did somehow do that at Nashville. It's kind of been one race good, one race bad the entire season whenever I'm able to show up. I'll be here next week as well, I think. So again, next week, gonna go for another top 10. We've had decent luck on the these different style of tracks, not like the cookie cutters and stuff like that. So I don't even know where we're at next week, but hopefully it's more of the same.
And then before we let you go here, is there anyone that you want to thank for this top 5 today?
Everybody in the T1A call, Jerg, Ryan, Justin, Micah, Gabe, Duncan, Rivers. I think that's about it.
All right. Congratulations again on the top 5, and thanks for stopping by for an interview.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
That's Travis Van Usendorp, driver of the number 42 truck, that was able to join us for a nice little interview there. Great stuff as always, Nate. And wow, this gives us a really good opportunity to just kind of debrief and kind of take our breath with what just happened here in the closing stages here, exercising all 3 attempts at overtime to get this race under completion, and it did not disappoint. A great defensive job here by AJ Green to hang on to the tough spot and come away with the race win here after the heartbreak last week, and that's all going to it's gonna all but put him in the playoffs at the time being.
And the points just did get updated. It will put him in the playoffs. He is 12 clear of Craig Parks over the cut line. He is 10th in points behind Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and that gap on the cut line as wide as it's been all season.
And we still don't have an official point standings update. They have not been completed so far in tonight's process, but we will get those to you when we show up to the Darlington Raceway next week. Which that brings us to the next point in our broadcast here in our closing section is we get to look forward into the next handful of races, and Darlington's next. We'll be there at the track Too Tough to Tame for some really intense action, and honestly, Nate, it could be a very different race than anything we've seen so far. Darlington, it's one of one. There's nothing like it. Very old surface. You have to race up against the outside wall. We normally see the field spread out a lot when we go to those tracks. Doesn't matter what kind of car it is, and usually the best driver will always win at Darlington.
Yeah, and it's such a white knuckle physical track, and even Pocono, there's a lot of beef, and I don't think that it's gonna get settled over the Discord chat in the coming weeks. So Darlington could certainly be sort of a boxing ring at points with as close quarters as that track gets. It's going to be a great watch next week.
Yeah, side by side there's difficult enough, so it might be the perfect place for some of these drivers to settle their disputes out on the racetrack for position before we head on into the west coast of South California to go racing to try and see who will be our playoff 10 drivers in the month of October. And just like that, Nate, we're in the final stretch of races where we have 7 to go when we count the entirety of the regular season, or actually in the entirety of the season, just 2 to go in the regular season. So before December 1st is slowly but surely creeping up on us, man. We're already past the halfway point in the season. This season, it feels like it's flown by already with our 8 winners.
It really has. Just it's flown by just so fast. It feels like it wasn't so long ago I hopped into the booth for the first time this season, and that was way back at Nashville. And now then the playoffs, they seem so far away. Now we've got guys that are already locking themselves into it, and before we know it, you said it. In just a couple of short months, it'll be time to crown a champion, and I'm excited.
I'm excited too. We're enjoying the ride as it presents itself towards us here. We're still trying to enjoy the moment here. We got Darlington action next Monday night, but also we have some more stuff here on the KBueno Racing Network this week. Be sure to join us over for the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from the Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve racetrack. We saw the trucks there a couple of weeks ago. This Wednesday, it'll be the Next Gen Cup Series machines going on for 58 laps from the Montreal circuit. I'll be a part of that show, but Kenneth, Charlie, and Keelan will be on the call for that one. Make sure you tune in 8:30 p.m. Eastern this Wednesday for some road course racing. And road course racing does not stop there because that's going to be the week for us here. You be sure to join us on Thursday for the SAC Cup Series from Road America. So more road course action if that's your cup of tea. We'll be watching some playoff action there as well. Be sure to join us at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for Road America, where you'll see Kenneth and Nate a part of that show. I might be there as well. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. And like I said, we got Darlington next week. Be sure to join us 8:30 p.m. Eastern for Darlington to see our second to last race of the regular season. So with that being said, Nate, I'm so happy to be a part of this broadcast, being able to bring this to all of our fans, and just anything you want to say before we head off for the evening.
What a race. I hope you enjoyed this one, and grab your popcorn for next week at Darlington because it's going to get even better as we wind down this regular season.
It's amazing how things can get even better than this, but they absolutely can. And I can't wait to see how it unfolds alongside you up here in the booth. So thank you to everybody from the KBueno Racing Truck Series admin team that helps put this league together, that makes this happen week in and week out. For Kenneth Bueno, Charlie Bayer, Keelan Belsha, among others that help make this work. Shout out to everybody on the KBueno Racing Network that helps make this possible. Kenneth, the guy, the man himself in this channel, that's able to allow me to do these shows for him so he can go out there and participate in any other amount as he's usually commentating. Wasn't on the racetrack tonight, but we'll see him maybe with Charlie Bayer next week. He is going to be over at Charlotte covering the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship race next week, but he also is going to be covering some real life racing in the Cars Tour Series that Saturday night. So he's got a long week at Charlotte next time out. So hopefully we get to see a surprise with him and Charlie next time out. But saying so long and good night is here from the booth. Everybody on the KBueno Racing Network, Eli Comerford, Keelan Belsha, Charlie Byer, Kenneth Bueno, Nate Polite with me alongside here. I am Francisco Bacalao saying thank you for joining us. Be sure to tune in this week for some more racing in Darlington next week. Enjoy your Monday night.